They said, "It's just business," but firing me without warning? That was personal. Have you ever had a moment where everything felt absolutely perfect, only to have it shattered beyond recognition? That was my Friday afternoon at Hamilton and Crest Marketing. I was sitting in my corner cubicle, staring at the signed preliminary agreement on my computer screen. $2.3 million in revenue, the biggest deal of my 6-year career. The client, Westbrook Industries, had been a nightmare to land. 3 months of presentations, revisions, and late-night strategy sessions. Everyone else had given up on them after the first rejection, but I knew they were worth the fight. I'd built this relationship from nothing, using my own research methods and a proposal template I developed during my off hours. Strangely, Lori had been insisting on handling all communication with corporate about the deal, claiming she wanted to manage expectations at the leadership level. My phone buzzed with a text from my manager, "Lori, great work this week, Victoria. Enjoy your weekend." I smiled, thinking how rare it was for her to acknowledge anyone's success. Something felt different about her message, though. Too friendly. Too final. I shook off the weird feeling and started packing up my desk. Monday would bring the contract finalization meeting, and I'd officially closed the biggest deal in the company's quarterly history. But as I walked to my car that evening, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me from the office windows above. Nothing could have prepared me for what awaited me Monday morning. I arrived at Hamilton and Crest at 7:30 a.m., same as always, first one in, ready to tackle the final contract details with Westbrook Industries. My coffee was still steaming as I approached the security turnstiles, badge in hand. The red light blinked. Access denied. I tried again, thinking it was a system glitch. Red light. Again. That's when I noticed Jake from security walking toward me with a manila folder tucked under his arm. His expression was grim, apologetic even. "Victoria," he said quietly, "I need you to come with me." My heart hammered against my ribs. What's wrong? Is there a problem with my badge? "You've been terminated, effective immediately." The words hit me like a physical blow. It's a restructuring decision. Nothing personal. Nothing personal? 6 years of dedication, perfect performance reviews, and the biggest deal of the quarter just last Friday, and it's nothing personal? Jake handed me the folder containing termination paperwork and a non-disclosure agreement. "You have 30 minutes to collect personal items from your desk," he continued. "Someone will escort you." But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. Because across the lobby, I could see Lori watching through the glass doors, her expression unreadable. The walk to my desk felt like a funeral march. Jake stayed close behind me while other employees pretended not to stare. Some looked shocked. After all, I was considered one of the company's most reliable performers. Others quickly looked away, probably grateful it wasn't them facing the cardboard box of shame. Lori appeared at my cubicle before I could even sit down. She was holding a steaming cup of coffee, casual as if nothing had happened. "I'm so sorry about this, Victoria," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Budget cuts, you know. Corporate made some tough decisions over the weekend." Over the weekend? But Friday afternoon, she'd been congratulating me on the Westbrook deal. Nothing about budget concerns or restructuring. I started packing my few personal items, a small plant, some photos, my favorite pen, while trying to process what was happening. "What about the Westbrook contract?" I asked, my voice barely steady. Lori's smile was too bright. "Don't worry about that. I'll handle the transition. We can't let a personnel change affect our clients." Personnel change. Like I was just a piece of furniture being moved around. But something in her tone made me look up sharply. There was a glint in her eyes that I'd never seen before. As I cleaned out my desk drawers, fragments of conversations from the past few weeks started connecting in my mind like puzzle pieces. Lori's sudden interest in my client files. Her insistence on being copied on all my Westbrook emails. The way she'd started attending meetings she'd never cared about before. Actually, Lori continued, leaning against my cubicle wall, I've been working closely with the Westbrook account too. Since you won't be here to finalize things, I'll make sure they're taken care of. My hands froze on the cardboard box. You've been working on Westbrook? Of course. We're a team here, Victoria. I've been contributing to the relationship building. Her smile was predatory now. I actually have some great ideas for how to strengthen that partnership moving forward. The blood drained from my face. She'd been positioning herself to take credit for my work all along. The weekend termination decision wasn't about budget cuts, it was about timing. Get rid of me right after I'd done the hard work, right before the final contract signing. But Lori had made one crucial mistake in her perfectly orchestrated plan. She had no idea what I discovered Friday night while backing up my files. That Friday evening, after celebrating the Westbrook preliminary agreement, I'd stayed late to back up my project files to my personal cloud drive, a habit I developed after a computer crash had cost me weeks of work 2 years earlier. As I uploaded the documents, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The contract signature page was incomplete. Despite what everyone believed, the deal wasn't actually finalized. Westbrook had signed the preliminary agreement, but the main contract required both their signature and mine as the primary account manager. James Westbrook had specifically requested this dual signature structure during negotiations, citing his company's policy of ensuring continuity with designated contacts, a detail buried in the fine print that most people overlooked. Without my digital signature, the $2.3 million deal was just expensive paperwork. Now, standing in my cubicle with Jake hovering nearby and Lori already mentally spending the commission that should have been mine, I realized the full scope of what they'd tried to do. They wanted me gone before I could complete the contract, so Lori could swoop in as the hero who saved the deal. You seem quiet, Lori observed, checking her watch. I hope there are no hard feelings. Business is business. I looked up at her, my cardboard box finally packed. No hard feelings at all. But as we walked toward the elevator, Lori had no idea that the real game was just beginning. 3 hours later, I sat in my car outside a coffee shop, staring at my phone. The termination had been so swift and shocking that I hadn't even had time to process the full implications. But now, with the initial shock wearing off, my mind was racing. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I was looking for, James Westbrook, CEO of Westbrook Industries. We'd built a solid rapport over the past 3 months, and he'd specifically mentioned how much he appreciated my direct communication style. My finger hovered over the call button. This was either the smartest or stupidest thing I was about to do. The phone rang twice before his familiar voice answered. Victoria. Perfect timing. I was just thinking about our contract finalization meeting this week. James, I said, taking a deep breath, I need to tell you something important about that contract. Oh. Is there an issue? I chose my words carefully. I'm no longer with Hamilton and Crest as of this morning. I wanted to let you know directly since you'll be working with someone new on finalizing the details. There was a long pause. You're not with them anymore? But you're the one who built this entire proposal. You know our business better than anyone there. I understand this might complicate things, I said, gauging his reaction. Complicate? Victoria, you are the relationship. Without you. His voice trailed off. James, I continued carefully, there's something else you should know about the contract structure. I could hear him shuffling papers in the background. I'm listening. The preliminary agreement you signed was just the first step. The main contract actually requires dual signatures, yours and mine as the designated account manager. It's clause 47B in the fine print. Another pause, longer this time. Are you telling me the deal isn't actually complete? That's exactly what I'm telling you. I took a breath. Without my signature, the contract is null and void. Hamilton and Crest will likely assign someone else to take my place and try to have them sign instead, but legally, they'd need to restart the entire process. This is unbelievable, James muttered. They fire the person who made this deal possible, and now they want to parade someone else in front of me as if nothing happened? His anger was palpable, and I realized I'd struck a nerve. James Westbrook was known in the industry for valuing loyalty and long-term relationships above everything else. Plus, I remembered him mentioning during our negotiations how frustrated he'd become with Hamilton and Crest's bureaucratic approach and constant personnel shuffling on other accounts. The idea of being shuffled between account managers again would be the final straw for him. "What are your plans now?" he asked suddenly. "I'm exploring my options," I said truthfully. "Well, while you're exploring, I want you to know something. This contract was with you, not with Hamilton and Crest." "James, I appreciate the sentiment, but, no, Victoria, you don't understand. I've been in business for 25 years, and I can count on one hand the number of account managers who truly understood my company's needs. You're one of them." I felt a flutter of hope mixed with nervousness. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that if you land somewhere else, somewhere that appreciates your talent, I'd be very interested in discussing how Westbrook Industries might work with that company instead." My heart began racing. That's incredibly generous of you." "It's not generous. It's smart business. I don't want to work with people who throw away their best talent for no good reason." He paused. "Do you have something lined up already?" I thought about the business card I'd tucked away in my wallet 3 weeks ago. Fletcher and Associates, Hamilton and Crest's biggest competitor. Their senior partner, Patricia Fletcher, had approached me at an industry conference, mentioning they were always looking for top performers. "I might have an opportunity," I said carefully. "Good. And Victoria? Don't sign anything with Hamilton and Crest. Not until we talk again." After I hung up, I sat in my car for a long moment, processing what had just happened. Then I pulled out Patricia Fletcher's business card and dialed her number. Patricia Fletcher's office was everything Hamilton and Crest's wasn't: modern, sophisticated, and filled with the energy of people who actually enjoyed their work. She greeted me with a firm handshake and the kind of genuine smile I hadn't seen in months. "Victoria. I was hoping I'd hear from you soon. Though I have to admit, I didn't expect it to be this soon." "The circumstances changed rather suddenly," I said, settling into the leather chair across from her desk. "So I heard. Word travels fast in our industry." She leaned back, studying me. "Hamilton and Crest's loss is potentially our gain. I've been watching your work for years, the Harborstone account turnaround, the Blackstone expansion, and now this Westbrook situation." My eyebrows shot up. "You know about Westbrook?" "I know you've been courting them for months and that you finally cracked the code. I also know they terminated you this morning, which frankly makes no business sense whatsoever." She opened a folder on her desk. "Unless someone there was positioning themselves to take credit for your work." The accuracy of her assessment was startling. "How could you possibly know that?" Patricia smiled. "Because Lori Mitchell used to work here. I know exactly how she operates." My blood ran cold. "Lori used to work for you?" 3 years ago. She was, let's say, ambitious in all the wrong ways." "Tell me about Lori," I said, leaning forward. Patricia's expression grew serious. "Lori Mitchell is brilliant at one thing: taking credit for other people's work. She was here for 18 months, during which she managed to attach herself to 3 major accounts that other people had developed. She'd insert herself into client communications, gradually positioning herself as the primary contact." My stomach churned as I recognized the pattern. What happened? She got caught. One of our clients called me directly to complain about the account transition that Lori had orchestrated without authorization. Turns out she'd been telling clients that their original account manager was being reassigned, then stepping in as the replacement. You fired her? Immediately. But not before she'd caused significant damage to client relationships. Patricia stood and walked to her window. When I heard she'd landed at Hamilton and Crest, I felt sorry for whoever would have to work with her. The pieces were falling into place. Lori hadn't just stumbled into an opportunity to steal my Westbrook account, this was her established pattern. She was a professional credit thief. There's something else you should know, Patricia continued. The reason I originally approached you at that conference? I knew Lori was your manager, and I was hoping to recruit you before she destroyed your career. I stared at her. You were trying to save me? I was trying to save a talented professional from making the same mistake others had made. But now, sitting in this office, I realized something that Patricia didn't know yet. If you're enjoying this story of workplace betrayal and revenge, hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true stories that will leave you speechless. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Patricia, I said slowly, what if I told you there was a way to not only bring my skills to Fletcher & Associates, but also to bring a $2.3 million client with me? Her eyes sharpened. I'd say you have my complete attention. I explained the situation with the Westbrook contract, how it required my signature, how Lori was planning to take credit for my work, and how James Westbrook had already expressed interest in following me to a new company. This is unprecedented, Patricia murmured, taking notes. If you can legitimately bring Westbrook Industries here, it would be one of the largest account acquisitions in our company's history. There's just one problem, I said. I need to move fast. Once Lori realizes the contract isn't finalized, she'll try to find a way around the signature requirement. Patricia nodded thoughtfully. How quickly can you start? Today, if you'll have me. Consider yourself hired. We've been looking for a senior-level account lead for months, and our board pre-approved fast-track hiring for anyone who can bring major clients. She extended her hand. Senior account manager, with a signing bonus and commission structure that I think you'll find very attractive. As we shook hands, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years at Hamilton and Crest, genuine excitement about going to work. But more than that, I felt the satisfaction of a plan coming together. Lori thought she'd won by getting me fired. She had no idea she'd just handed me the keys to her destruction. That afternoon, I sent a carefully crafted email to James Westbrook from my new Fletcher & Associates address. James, as promised, I wanted to update you on my new position. I'm now Senior Account Manager at Fletcher & Associates, and I'm excited to discuss how we might continue our partnership here. As we discussed, the Hamilton and Crest contract remains unsigned pending the resolution of the account management transition. I'd love to schedule a meeting this week to explore opportunities with Fletcher & Associates instead. Best regards, Victoria. His response came within an hour. Victoria, excellent news. I've been thinking about our conversation, and I believe Fletcher & Associates would be a much better fit for Westbrook Industries. Can we meet tomorrow morning? I'd like to discuss terminating the Hamilton and Crest preliminary agreement and starting fresh with your new company. James, I stared at the email, hardly believing it was real. In less than 24 hours, I'd gone from unemployment to holding the keys to Hamilton and Crest's biggest quarterly deal. But the best part was still coming. Because tomorrow morning, while I was meeting with James Westbrook about moving his business to Fletcher & Associates, Lori would be discovering that her perfectly orchestrated plan had a fatal flaw. Tuesday morning, I woke up before my alarm, energized in a way I hadn't felt in months. While getting ready for my meeting with James Westbrook, I couldn't help but imagine what was happening across town at Hamilton and Crest. Lori would be arriving early, probably rehearsing her presentation for the Westbrook contract finalization meeting. She'd likely spent the weekend preparing, confident that she'd successfully eliminated the only obstacle to her taking credit for the biggest deal of the quarter. But right about now, she'd be discovering that the contract files were incomplete. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia Fletcher. Conference room B is ready for your 9 a.m. with Westbrook. Coffee and pastries are set up. Knock them dead. At exactly 9 a.m., James Westbrook walked into Fletcher and Associates' conference room with his legal counsel and chief financial officer. The fact that he'd brought his entire decision-making team told me everything I needed to know about his intentions. "Victoria," he said, shaking my hand warmly, "I have to tell you, I slept better last night knowing we'd be working together again." "I'm glad to hear it, James. I think you're going to love what Fletcher and Associates can offer Westbrook Industries." But as I began my presentation, my phone started buzzing incessantly with calls from an unknown number. I silenced it, but the persistence suggested someone was desperately trying to reach me. I had a pretty good idea who it was. The Fletcher and Associates meeting with Westbrook Industries went even better than I'd hoped. By 10:30 a.m., we had a handshake agreement for a $2.5 million contract. $200,000 more than the original Hamilton and Crest proposal, thanks to Fletcher's superior service offerings. As James and his team left the building, my phone immediately rang again. This time, I recognized the number, Hamilton and Crest's main line. I let it go to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Then again. By the fifth call, I decided to listen to the voicemails that had accumulated. The first was from Lori, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Victoria, it's Lori. I need to speak with you urgently about the Westbrook contract. There seems to be some confusion about the signature requirements. Please call me back immediately." The second message, left just 10 minutes later, was more desperate. "Victoria, this is really important. I'm having trouble finalizing the Westbrook deal, and I need your help understanding the contract structure. Please call me back." The third message was from Milton and Crest's senior partner. "Ms. Victoria, this is Charles Hamilton. We need to discuss the Westbrook Industries account immediately. Please return this call at your earliest convenience." I saved all the messages and forwarded them to Patricia Fletcher. She responded within minutes. "This is better than we hoped. They're panicking." But I wasn't ready to gloat yet. Because the real revelation was still coming. By noon, the calls from Hamilton and Crest had stopped. I suspected they'd finally figured out what I'd known all along. The contract couldn't be completed without my signature, and I was no longer their employee. But at 2 p.m., my personal phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. "Victoria, thank God." It was Lori, calling from what was probably her personal cell phone. "We need to talk." "I don't think we have anything to discuss, Lori. Please, just hear me out. I know you're angry about the termination, but this doesn't have to be adversarial. The Westbrook contract is worth millions to the company. There has to be a way we can work together to finalize it." I almost laughed. "Work together? Like we worked together when you fired me yesterday morning?" "That wasn't my decision," she said quickly. "That came from corporate. I had nothing to do with it." It was fascinating to watch someone I'd known for 6 years lie so brazenly. "Is that so?" "Yes. And now we're all paying for their mistake. Look, I know you probably have legal rights to the signature requirement. Maybe we can work out some kind of consulting arrangement. You come in, sign the papers, we all move forward." She was offering me exactly what she thought I wanted, a chance to complete the deal and salvage my relationship with Hamilton and Crest. Any reasonable person in my position would probably take it. But she still didn't understand the full scope of what was happening. "I'll think about it," I said. The relief in her voice was palpable. "Really? Oh, Victoria, thank you. I knew you'd be reasonable about this." But as I hung up, I was already drafting an email that would end this conversation permanently. Wednesday morning, I sent a single email that would change everything. Dear Mr. Hamilton and Ms. Mitchell, thank you for your multiple attempts to contact me regarding the Westbrook Industries account. I wanted to respond to your inquiries with complete transparency about the current situation. As of yesterday morning, Westbrook Industries has signed a $2.5 million contract with Fletcher & Associates, where I now serve as Senior Account Manager. Mr. Westbrook expressed that his company values working with firms that appreciate and retain their top talent. The preliminary agreement with Hamilton and Crest has been formally terminated, as the contract was never completed due to my departure from your company. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Regards, Victoria Senior Account Manager Fletcher & Associates. I copied James Westbrook and Patricia Fletcher on the email, then sat back and waited. The response came within minutes, but not from who I expected. My phone exploded with an incoming call from Charles Hamilton himself, the senior partner whose name was literally on the building. I declined the call and waited for the voicemail. Ms. Victoria, this is Charles Hamilton. I need you in my office immediately to discuss this misunderstanding about the Westbrook account. Misunderstanding. Even now, they couldn't accept that they'd been outmaneuvered. But the real satisfaction came an hour later, when Patricia Fletcher forwarded me an email from Hamilton and Crest's corporate office. The email Patricia showed me was internal Hamilton and Crest correspondence that had accidentally been sent to Fletcher & Associates' general inbox. Apparently a panicked junior staff member had autofilled Fletcher, instead of Felker, their internal coordinator, in the recipient field during the crisis. Emergency meeting called for Thursday 8 a.m. Westbrook Industries' loss represents 47% of Q1 projected revenue. Need immediate damage control strategy and explanation for account management failures. All senior staff required. C. Hamilton, 47% of their quarterly revenue. I had known the Westbrook deal was significant, but I hadn't realized just how much Hamilton and Crest had been counting on it to meet their quarterly targets. There's more, Patricia said, pointing to another email in the chain. Look at this. The second email was from Lori to Charles Hamilton. The Victoria situation was handled according to your direct instructions. The timing was planned to minimize disruption to the Westbrook finalization. This outcome was not foreseeable based on the information available at the time of her termination. My blood boiled. Even in crisis, Lori was trying to cover herself by implying the termination had been Charles Hamilton's idea. But the response email told a different story. Ms. Mitchell, I have no record of authorizing any termination without a transition plan for active accounts. Please prepare a full report on your decision-making process regarding this matter. So Lori had lied to everyone, to me about the reasons for my firing, and to her boss about having authorization. But the most satisfying email was the third one in the chain. The third email was from Hamilton and Crest's HR director to Charles Hamilton. Per your request, I've reviewed the Victoria termination. Ms. Mitchell submitted the paperwork Friday evening, citing performance concerns and team restructuring needs. However, Victoria's file shows consistently excellent performance reviews and no documented issues. Additionally, Ms. Mitchell's request was processed as an emergency termination, bypassing the standard review period. This appears to have been a unilateral decision by Ms. Mitchell without proper authorization or documentation. The picture was becoming crystal clear. Lori had acted entirely on her own, using emergency termination procedures to fire me over the weekend while Charles Hamilton wasn't available to review the decision. She'd gambled that she could present the Westbrook contract completion as a fait accompli by Monday, making any questions about my termination irrelevant. Instead, her scheme had cost the company their biggest deal of the quarter and exposed her as someone who'd acted without authorization. My phone rang again. This time, it was James Westbrook. Victoria, I just wanted to call and personally thank you for helping us make the right decision. The Fletcher & Associates team has already impressed us more in 2 days than Hamilton and Crest did in 3 months. I'm so glad to hear that, James. There is one thing, though. I got a very strange call from someone named Lori Mitchell this morning. She seemed to think there was still a possibility of working with Hamilton and Crest instead of Fletcher and Associates. My eyebrows shot up. She called you directly? She did. And frankly, it was one of the most unprofessional conversations I've had in years. What did Lori say to you? I asked, though I was already dreading the answer. James sighed. She told me that you were a disgruntled former employee, who was trying to sabotage Hamilton and Crest out of spite. She claimed that you had illegally manipulated the contract terms and that the deal should rightfully belong to Hamilton and Crest. I closed my eyes. In her desperation, Lori had made the one mistake that would ensure her complete downfall. She'd insulted James Westbrook's judgment and accused me of fraud. She also suggested, James continued, his voice growing colder, that I was being taken advantage of by Fletcher and Associates and that as an experienced businessman, should be able to see through your manipulation tactics. This was beyond unprofessional. This was career suicide. James, I am so sorry that she contacted you. That call was completely inappropriate and unauthorized. Oh, don't apologize. Her call actually convinced me that we made absolutely the right decision in leaving Hamilton and Crest. His voice carried a hint of amusement now. Anyone who thinks I can't tell the difference between excellent service and manipulation clearly doesn't understand how I've stayed in business for 25 years. What did you tell her? I told her that Westbrook Industries would not be reconsidering our decision, that any further contact from Hamilton and Crest regarding this matter would be considered harassment, and that if she continued to disparage either you or Fletcher and Associates, I would be consulting with my legal team. Lori had just burned every bridge possible in a single phone call. Thursday morning, I arrived at Fletcher and Associates to find Patricia Fletcher waiting for me with a cup of coffee and a huge grin. You're not going to believe what happened at Hamilton and Crest yesterday, she said, handing me a printout. It was a brief article from the industry newsletter that circulated among marketing firms. Hamilton and Crest's senior manager terminated following client relations breach. I scanned the article quickly. Lori Mitchell had been terminated effective immediately for unauthorized client contact and violation of professional conduct standards. The article mentioned that her actions had resulted in the loss of a significant client account and had damaged the firm's reputation in the industry. How did the newsletter get this information so quickly? I asked. Charles Hamilton called the editor personally, Patricia explained. Apparently, James Westbrook's legal team contacted Hamilton and Crest yesterday afternoon to formally document Lori's inappropriate communications. Hamilton was so furious about the potential legal liability that he wanted to make sure everyone in the industry knew that Lori's actions didn't represent his company's values. So Lori hadn't just lost her job, she'd been publicly disgraced in the industry publication that every marketing professional read. There's more, Patricia continued, pulling out another document. Hamilton and Crest's quarterly report was released this morning. They're showing a 23% revenue decline due to unexpected account transitions. Their stock price dropped 8% yesterday. The scope of the damage was staggering. While it had only taken days for Lori's plan to completely unravel, I realized the seeds of her destruction had been planted long ago. Every unethical shortcut, every stolen credit, every burned bridge had led to this moment where one final miscalculation brought everything crashing down. But the best news was still coming. That afternoon, Patricia Fletcher called me into her office for what she said was an important conversation about my future with the company. Victoria, in my 20 years running this firm, I've never seen anyone turn a termination into such a complete victory, she began. Not only did you bring us one of the largest clients in our company's history, but you handled the entire situation with absolute professionalism. Thank you, Patricia. I have to admit, it feels good to work for someone who appreciates talent instead of trying to steal credit for it. About that, she said, opening a folder on her desk. The board of directors met this morning to discuss your performance and your future here. We'd like to offer you a promotion to acting senior partner, with full confirmation after a 90-day performance review. I stared at her. Acting senior partner? But I've only been here 3 days. You've been working at partner level for years, Victoria. You just weren't getting recognition for it. And frankly, to secure the Westbrook expansion and position ourselves for the referrals James mentioned, we need to move strategically. She slid the contract across the desk. This comes with a significant salary increase, equity in the company, and a commission structure that will make you one of the highest paid marketing professionals in the city. As I read through the offer, I realized that in less than a week, I'd gone from unemployed to earning more than double my Hamilton and Crest salary. There's one more thing, Patricia added. We've had 3 other Hamilton and Crest employees reach out to us in the past 2 days, asking about opportunities here. Word is spreading about how terribly they handled your situation. But the best part of this story was yet to come. 2 weeks later, I was settling into my new corner office, with an actual window, when my assistant buzzed me. Victoria, there's a James Westbrook here to see you. He says he doesn't have an appointment, but he has something he wants to discuss. I told her to send him in, curious about what had brought him to the office unannounced. James walked in with a broad smile and a leather portfolio. I hope you don't mind the surprise visit, but I wanted to personally deliver some news. Good news, I hope. The best. Westbrook Industries was so impressed with Fletcher & Associates' service over the past 2 weeks that we've decided to move all of our marketing accounts here. We're talking about an additional $4.7 million in annual business. He opened the portfolio and handed me a signed letter of intent. I nearly fell out of my chair. James, that's incredible. It gets better. I've been telling other CEOs in my network about the exceptional service we've received here. Fletcher & Associates is about to get very busy. As we toasted, I couldn't help but think about Lori, who was probably at home updating her resume and trying to explain to potential employers why she'd been terminated and publicly disgraced. There's something else, James said. I heard Hamilton and Crest is restructuring their entire senior management team. Apparently, losing our account was just the beginning of their problems. Before we get to the shocking finale of this story, I want to ask for your help. If you're loving this tale of workplace revenge and justice, please hit that subscribe button and share this story with someone who appreciates a good comeback story. Your support means everything. A month after my termination from Hamilton and Crest, the industry newsletter published a follow-up article that made my morning coffee taste even better than usual. Hamilton and Crest marketing faces major restructuring following Q1 losses. The article detailed how the company had lost not just the Westbrook account, but 3 other major clients who had grown concerned about the firm's internal management issues and client relations problems. Their stock price had continued to decline, and they were now facing potential acquisition by a larger firm. Most satisfying of all, the article mentioned that Charles Hamilton had personally reached out to several former employees who had been unfairly treated by previous management, offering them consulting contracts to help rebuild client relationships. My phone rang as I was reading. It was Patricia Fletcher. Victoria, you need to turn on Channel 7 News right now. I grabbed the remote and switched to the local business segment. The anchor was interviewing James Westbrook about successful partnerships between large corporations and boutique marketing firms. The key, James was saying, is finding a firm that values talent and treats their employees as strategic assets, not disposable resources. Fletcher & Associates exemplifies this approach, which is why we've moved all of our marketing business there. The camera cut to a shot of Fletcher & Associates building, with a banner announcing their recent expansion and new client acquisitions. In related news, the anchor continued, Hamilton and Crest Marketing announced today that they will be closing their downtown office and consolidating operations as they work to rebuild their client base following several high-profile account losses this quarter. I turned off the TV and sat back in my chair, marveling at how completely the tables had turned. 6 months later, I was reviewing quarterly reports in my office when my assistant buzzed me with an unexpected call. "Victoria, there's a Lori Mitchell online too. She says it's personal." I hesitated for a moment, then picked up the phone. "Hello, Lori." "Victoria." Her voice was subdued, lacking all the confidence I remembered. "I hope you don't mind me calling. I wanted to apologize." "Go ahead. I know what I did was wrong. The way I handled everything, the way I treated you, it was inexcusable." She paused. "I've had a lot of time to think about it since then." "I see. How have things been going for you?" There was a long silence. "Not well. The industry is smaller than I thought. Word gets around. I've been out of work for 4 months now." I didn't respond, letting her continue. "I saw the article about Fletcher and Associates becoming the fastest growing marketing firm in the state. And I saw your promotion to senior partner. You deserved all of it. Thank you. I was wondering." Her voice became hesitant, "If you might be willing to give me a reference. Just something basic, about my technical skills." "I know I don't deserve it, but, Lori," I interrupted gently, "I think you should focus on finding opportunities that are a better fit for your particular skill set." After I hung up, I realized that this phone call was the final confirmation that justice had been served. Lori had lost everything she'd tried to steal from me, while I had gained more than I'd ever imagined possible. But the story wasn't quite over yet. 1 year after my termination from Hamilton and Crest Marketing, I received an invitation that made me smile wider than I had in months. Fletcher and Associates had been selected as Marketing Firm of the Year by the State Business Association, and I was being honored as Marketing Professional of the Year. The award ceremony was being held at the Grand Ballroom downtown, the same venue where Hamilton and Crest had held their annual client appreciation dinners. As I walked into the ballroom that evening, wearing a dress that cost more than I used to make in a month, I spotted several familiar faces from my old company. Charles Hamilton nodded politely from across the room, probably remembering how his firm's biggest crisis had started with firing me. But the moment that made the entire year worthwhile came when I reached the head table and found my place card next to James Westbrook's. He stood to greet me with a warm hug. "Victoria, I have something to tell you," he said as we sat down. "Do you remember what you said when we first met about how the best business relationships are built on mutual respect and trust?" "I do." "Well, that philosophy has become the foundation of how Westbrook Industries approaches all our partnerships now. We've shared your story, with your permission, as an example of why character matters more than contracts." As the ceremony began and my name was called for the award, I walked to the podium and looked out at an audience filled with people who respected my work and valued my contributions. I paused for a moment, letting the weight of the year sink in, then spoke simply. "When they fired me, they said it was nothing personal. But I've learned that everything we do in business is personal, how we treat people, how we honor commitments, how we build trust. Thank you for this recognition, and thank you for proving that character still matters." The applause was thunderous, but the real satisfaction came from knowing that Lori Mitchell was somewhere watching this on the live stream, finally understanding that stealing credit for other people's work had cost her everything she'd ever wanted. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey of workplace justice and professional triumph. If this story inspired you, reminded you to value your own worth, or simply entertained you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more amazing stories, and share this with anyone who's ever felt undervalued at work. Remember, your worth isn't determined by people who don't appreciate you. Sometimes the best revenge is simply becoming so successful that your haters have no choice but to watch you shine.